If you've been keeping an eye on recent Samsung leaks, you've probably noticed one wild trend. The Galaxy S26 Ultra situation has turned into a full-blown chipset drama. And honestly, I understand why the hype is so intense. Fans have been demanding Snapdragon for the Ultra model for years, and it looked like Samsung wasn't going to listen at all. For the longest time, everyone assumed the Exynos 2600 was locked in with no chance of a switch, but then everything flipped. New reports started rolling in, hinting that Samsung might actually return to Snapdragon for the Ultra. Sounds great, right? Except now the Snapdragon itself is causing its own chaos. This is where things suddenly get interesting. The Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 is basically the fastest and the hottest chip of the year. It crushes benchmarks and is built to handle advanced AI features. Chinese phones have already shown what it can do on paper. On specs alone, it looks like the perfect match for the S26 Ultra. But here's the twist. Power comes with heat, and this chip isn't just warm, it runs seriously hot. At first, everything looked smooth. Full speed, strong performance, no signs of struggle at all. Then suddenly temperatures skyrocketed. Not warm, scorching. One device crossed 52 degrees Celsius during the 3D Mark stress test and shut down again and again before finishing. That's not a small warning. That's a huge red light flashing nonstop, practically yelling for better cooling. They even tested another device, the OnePlus 15, and the trend stayed the same. When the cooling system was solid, the chip performed normally, but when the vapor chamber was smaller or weaker, performance dropped fast and the phone basically turned into an unwanted pocket heater. And that's exactly where Samsung's biggest challenge begins. If they really want to use the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 and the S26 Ultra, especially the rumored custom version with a higher prime core clock, they absolutely can't compromise on cooling this time. There's no room for shortcuts on thermal design. To make this chip stable, Samsung would need a vapor chamber at least 15% larger than the one inside the S25 Ultra. Otherwise, they'd have no choice but to adjust the chip themselves. And yes, Samsung has tweaked Qualcomm chips before, but in this case, that might mean lowering the clock speeds, which no fan wants to hear. Because realistically, nobody gets excited about buying a flagship only for it to be underclocked on purpose. That would instantly spark backlash. And that's why this thermal problem might even push Samsung back toward choosing the Exynos 2600 if they can't solve things quickly enough. Samsung is basically stuck between two tough choices right now. Pick Exynos and risk upsetting fans who want pure Snapdragon power, or stick with Snapdragon and risk ending up with a device that overheats like a metal seat in the middle of summer. Neither option is simple, but that's the game with early leaks. Everything looks chaotic until Samsung quietly fixes things behind the scenes. The company has pulled off surprises before, so there's a chance they're already working on a solution we haven't seen yet. That's usually how these stories play out. Whether it ends up being Exynos or Snapdragon, the one thing everyone is hoping for is simple. The S26 Ultra should not be a phone people need heat-resistant gloves to hold. This is supposed to be Samsung's top-tier device, and it needs to feel like one in every way. That's the current picture based on what's circulating right now. Nothing is final, but the direction is interesting. The decisions Samsung makes will shape how fans judge the S26 Ultra even before launch. And once the chip choice is confirmed, reactions are going to be loud. So the real question comes back to you. If the Snapdragon version runs hotter but delivers better raw power, would you still prefer it, or would you rather Samsung stick to Exynos just to avoid those thermal headaches completely? Every user has a different priority here. Some people prefer stable temperatures even if it means sacrificing a bit of performance. Others want nothing but Snapdragon, no matter what. This debate is going to stay heated, literally and figuratively, until Samsung reveals its final move. The tension is part of the excitement. At the end of the day, we're all waiting to see how Samsung balances performance and cooling. The S26 Ultra can't afford to disappoint in an era where every flagship is pushing limits. So the pressure is definitely on Samsung to make the right call for its top-tier device. That's where things stand for now. The leaks are messy, the rumors are loud, and the decisions behind the scenes are probably even harder. But that's what makes following the stuff so fun. Every week brings a new twist, and the final answer could still go either way.